Okay, you're looking at the data. So how many? Right,
lying.
you're looking at the data. Clearly, you're an expert in this. Can you tell me how many increased hate crimes there were in 2022? Go ahead. What was the number that we're at?
No, I'm just pulling this up on Reuters. I literally just Google it, and then I find real information
so you're just
from real sources, and I don't cut my ears off, kind of like what you're doing right now.
So what you've admitted was you didn't even know that the FBI revised the statistics. Higher? Please,
that's fair. I didn't know that. So then what I do is that I Google and I learn it, and then, sorry.
Okay, so what you've admitted, what you've admitted was you didn't even know that the FBI revised those statistics, which shows even if it wasn't intentional.
That's great.
Please,
thank you for giving me new information.
Please. The way this works is don't cut your ears off. Listen to when another person is speaking. So you admitted that they didn't know that
their ears off.
Rob Noerr completely destroys 1stamender. And I believe 1stamender, after this debate, went and cried into his anime pillow. 1stamender thought he could go in there and try to lie to everybody about FBI crime statistics. But Rob Noerr brought receipts and swiftly calls them out, and 1stamender couldn't handle it. It's quite a beautiful watch. Let's see how this back and forth between Rob Noerr and 1stamender goes down.
Facts, right? You said crime is rampant. Where are you seeing that? I don't see that. The FBI statistics show that crime is not rampant. It's down. Is it up?
Yes.
All right, let's focus on that. Let's hand it over to
let's do it back and forth instead of just along. I'm cool with that. Great question. Are crime statistics up? First, we see a concession from our opponents that the record of Donald Trump was superior with the economy, with immigration, and with foreign policy.
Not true.
That is true. Now what they're doing is saying the experts predict things will be bad. I just want to take a moment to say that the experts also predicted that Trump would collapse the stock market and the economy if he was elected in 2016. They were incorrect.
They predicted
the
that
experts,
with the steel tariffs.
Please, the experts, please, we were quiet. Well, so I understand the back and forth's good, but the constant interruption won't work so well. So they also predicted that the economy
keep people on a
right. You're lying. Did they? Yes or no?
Let's just continue then in our own space for a little bit till we get to a flow. So Rob, the floor is yours.
Sure. Experts such as Paul Krugman, that are award-winning economists, predicted the economy would crash under Donald Trump. They were wrong. They also, these same experts, predicted that the economy would do fantastic under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They were wrong. They said that inflation would be transitory. They were wrong. They said that their economy would be better for the American people. They were wrong. They're wrong in all of that. And now they're saying this time, but trust us this time, we're right. We don't have to guess what the experts will say that have been wrong over and over again when it comes to the economy, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to foreign policy, because we actually have the records of Harris, who admitted she wouldn't have done anything different than Biden, and Trump. So again, once more, they'll gaslight you that the records say this. He asked specifically about crime. Yes, it's true that the FBI tries to manipulate the statistics in order to say that crime's gone down. We see that they've recently just had to change so that when the moderators in ABC said crime had fallen every year, that actually wasn't true. In 1 year, it went up. The crime was up under Donald Trump in 2020, largely because Democrats decided they would take to the streets during COVID when the rest of us were told they had to lock down and have mass crime waves across this country, which did lead to increased crime. Yes, we know that Democrat foot soldiers will engage in riots and crimes all across this country if they don't get their way. I understand that you want to put clever graphics up while I'm speaking. I don't think that I'd be talking about gish galloping for someone who gave an opening statement was just a poem that they had pre-written that made no arguments whatsoever. Anyways, when we're looking at the...
What a freaking woman 1stamender is. What a big baby he is. He's burning out because he can't accept Rob Noerr's valid arguments, so then he has to do things like putting up a gish gallop graphic on screen, which is rich coming from 1stamender. Because 1stamender looks up to Destiny, who is one of the kings of the Gish Gallop.
Statistics
Let us
give
them a chance to respond.
When we're looking at the crime statistics from the FBI, we can see that they've been manipulated, and we can see if we use better metrics like the National Crime Victimization Survey that doesn't just deal with reported crimes that the police dealt with, but actually people that are saying they were victim of crimes. Those numbers have precipitously gone up every year since Harris Biden have been in office.
All right, let's pass the ball back to 1stamender. Go ahead.
Yeah, wow, that was a lot of gish galloping. Yeah, so I'm going to ask you again, was the FBI, I'm just curious, right? Because I looked at the FBI crime statistics. Is crime up or down under Biden?
I just repeated. I'll repeat my answer. So first, we can see that the FBI manipulates the statistics, as we've already seen that.
So the FBI's bullshit, right? So
that's part of what I'm saying. We saw, yes or no? Did the FBI recently change their number?
Okay,
real quick, I answered your question. I answered your question.
Who do I go to?
What's that?
Who do I go to if I can't trust the FBI statistics?
Why don't you answer the yes/no question that I asked you, and then you answer the
yes or no question?
Okay, just 1 second, the first
right. The yes/no question that I asked you was: will you admit that the FBI just recently changed the numbers that showed that crime actually did increase in 2022?
All right.
What?
We'll let you.
Will you admit that the FBI just recently
FBI change the numbers?
So actually,
why would they change the
for
numbers?
sure, guys.
Great
We're gonna let
question.
Classy in here. He's been holding on, and
Classy stepping into white knight for First Amender. Don't worry, I'll save you.
so go ahead there, Classy.
So crime is down. They did like change sort of the method to like how they get statistics. So I think I know the source where you get it from. I think you're getting it from the Crime Prevention Center. I think it's like a gun rights advocacy group. I tried to actually go to the FBI website to download the data to see like where they got the numbers that it's up. I couldn't get the numbers. So like I don't know what you're talking about, but just looking at the graph, it is down 2022 and 2023 and 2024. And
no, the numbers went up. I believe the recent change was the numbers went down in 2021 and then back up in 2022. And now we have 2023's, or maybe it was they went down in 2022 and up in 2023. But to answer First Amendment's question, go to the National Crime Victimization Survey. That's where you could go.
And I just want to paint this with a little bit broader strokes, even if crime is down right now. Just look at the policy positions of the two candidates. Kamala Harris wants to allow biological men into locker rooms, sports, and restrooms, and female prisons with other real women. And she's allowed an open border where criminals have been pouring across for the last 4 years. And I want you to know that male patterns of violence do not change when a man claims to be a woman. Trans women have the same patterns of male violence as anyone else. And so that is an issue that we need to be talking about, in which the media hasn't been talking about. Is Harris going to continue to allow biological males into women's restrooms in sports? And is she going to continue to allow millions of illegals pouring into our country? Because that will affect the crime rates that are going to occur over the next 4 years.
Let's hand it back over to you, First Amender.
What does that have to do with crime statistics? I'm a little lost on that. What you don't have to like bring in your transphobia. You could just talk about the crime statistics. Okay, so we see that there's a slight increase after the FBI like decided to show that there's an increase. But you're saying that if that's the case, right? If it goes up a tiny percentage, right? You guys are saying that there's all this rampant crime. From what I'm observing, there's really not all this rampant crime.
Well, I live in Chicago.
That's BS. That's been fed to you. Right?
So First Amender admits that Rob was right, that there is a slight rise, that there is a rise in crime, that the FBI fixed it. But now he's like, but from what I've been able to see, there hasn't been rampant crime. First Amender loves to like pretend like he's based in the facts and the logic and the statistics, you know? He's like a David Pac-Man in that way, like, you know, well, the data shows. That's First Amender right there. But now that the statistics have turned against him, proving that he was wrong, now he wants to be like, but my anecdotal evidence, I haven't seen it.
Violence every weekend, there's 40 to 50 people.
Yeah, you're in Chicago. What? You're in a city.
Right. We don't care about right. And what we're saying, our argument is, first off, you're wrong. Your initial perception that you don't see crime is irrelevant. Polling shows that people feel that
but you
crime
don't even trust the
please
statistics.
Let me finish. Polling proves that people feel that crime is significant. Secondly, I gave you the best statistics, which is the National Crime Victimization Survey. You haven't touched it once. That shows that crime is up.
National Crime Victimization Survey. All I did was bring up the FBI crime statistics, which is a valid source. You said you can't trust it, right? Because it's establishment media. That's what I mean by you cut your ears off and you sewed them shut so that way you don't have to hear the truth. You don't care about the truth.
You're literally...
Well, I mean, projection. That's projecting. That's what you're doing. Rob Noerr didn't say we can't trust the FBI. Rob Noerr said, no, the FBI changed it. So he has evidence that the FBI came out and changed it. He didn't just say, well, you can't trust them. He said, no, the FBI said this, and now that they've changed it. That is proof that they weren't telling the truth or that they were wrong.
Interested.
You're
Anything that
exhibiting
doesn't
the
show
very-
in favor
you're
of Donald
exhibiting-
Trump, then you obviously think that that's a bad thing. But if it's in favor of Donald Trump, you think it's the truth.
You're exhibiting the exact behavior you're criticizing me. You gave a set of statistics, which I didn't just say it's mainstream media, I don't believe it. I gave specific reasons to question those statistics. I could give more. Meanwhile, I give you what I'm saying is a better indication of crime, which are people, not just the crimes that police have gone after, which is what the FBI is looking at, crimes that they've investigated, but actually people that have suffered from crime and that are victims. And the National Crime Victimization Survey actually shows that crime is up. Now, other reasons that we shouldn't prefer the FBI numbers, in addition to clearly, even if we say it's not corruption, their methodology is flawed enough that there are significant changes, so much so that in 2022, they initially said crime was down, and now we see that it was 4.5% up.
Yeah,
but
I got
also
news
it
for you,
relied,
even
real
with
quick,
your,
I'll finish,
increase,
real quick,
it's
please
still
stop,
lower.
please stop sewing your ears shut and listen for a second, and maybe you'll understand something. But what we could also see is that these FBI numbers are reliant not just on a flawed methodology, but also in what local police tell them and the crimes that local police are willing to go after. For example, if you see in a place like LA where they stop trying to prosecute shoplifting, then all of a sudden those numbers won't show up on an FBI statistics sheet. So we can see in left-wing controlled cities all across this country that they're allowing violent criminals back on the street, that they're allowing crimes to occur without even attempting to prosecute them anymore. And the last thing I'll say in this issue is when we did see crime spike like in 2020 under Trump, that was being done by Democrats, which you haven't disagreed with, but we could also see that Democrat policies, including those supported by Kamala Harris, who actually promoted a bail fund after these rioters committed an insurrection and burned down a police station, that sort of rhetoric led to what they call the Ferguson effect, which is that police have been demoralized and defunded, which causes increased crime in the very communities, particularly African-American inner city communities like Chicago, that you don't seem to care about.
All right.
So even with, sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to make sure that we wrapped it up there and just gave you a chance to respond there, First Amender. I know you guys got a lot of energy, but I do want to implore Josh and Classy to jump in at any time and ask you politely to make some space for them. But go ahead there, First Amender.
Apologies. Even if I include your increased revised statistic, increasing it from the 2% to this 4%, it's still lower. And even on top of that, this revised numbers that I'm pulling up, it looks like that while murder has decreased overall, it appears that what has increased isn't murder, but rather hate crime. Hate crime. That's what increased.
Like
they
what kind?
revised the number to include hate crime.
That's not entirely true.
I
don't believe that-
literally just pulled it up in a Reuters
Okay,
article.
so then
Is
how many-
Reuters lying? Is
Okay,
Reuters lying?
no, wait.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Is Reuters
okay,
lying?
you're
Tell me.
looking at the data.
Tell
So
me
how
how
many?
Reuters is
Right,
lying.
you're looking at the data. Clearly,
ahead,
you're an
tell me how
expert in this.
Reuters
Can you
is
tell me
lying.
how many increased hate crimes there were in 2022? Go ahead. What was the
I don't
number that we're
freaking
at?
know. I'm just pulling this up on Reuters.
Oh,
I literally just
so-
Google it and then
so
I
wait a minute.
find real
So
information
you're just
from
repeating-
real sources, and I don't cut my ears off, kind of like what you're doing right now.
So what you've admitted was you didn't even know that the FBI revised
hate
the
crime
statistics.
higher?
Please, what
That's
you admitted.
fair. I didn't know that. So
Just
then
one
what I
second
do is
there.
that I Google and I learn it, and then, sorry.
Okay, so what you've
no
admitted,
worries. Let's carry on.
what you've admitted was you didn't even know that the FBI revised those statistics, which shows even
That's
if it
correct.
wasn't
I didn't.
intentional.
That's great.
Please,
Thank you for giving me
please,
new information.
Please. The way this works is don't cut your ears off. Listen to when another person is speaking. So you admitted that
All
they
right,
didn't
nobody's
know that
cutting
they.
their ears off. Let's just, like I say,
So
try not
you
to cut each other off.
admitted that you were unaware of this. You admit, at the very least, even if it's not intentional, that it proves that these FBI crime statistics are fallible because they have to readjust. And now you're saying, but I quickly Googled and they said hate crimes are up and everything else is down. My question is then how much are hate crimes up? You're like, I don't know. I just read a headline.
Yeah,
I don't really
have the
understand
exact
that.
numbers off the
Again,
top of my head.
I
What's wrong
repeat,
with
all
you?
of this is non-responsive to the flawed methodology that they stopped going after certain crimes. The fact that we can see the National Crime Victimization Survey continues to say things like assaults of a sexual nature. I know we're not supposed to say the R word, but things like that, murders, etc., are still increasing. And it also doesn't really help your argument if those other types of crimes are going up. For example, many people are furious at property crimes. We can see that in places like Washington, D.C., where staffers used to work or still work for politicians, it used to be relatively safe. Now they're getting carjacked at record numbers. It's so much so that they're basically told, sorry, if you got carjacked. It's so it's so expansive now, we can't even remotely begin to investigate this. Now, I just want to make one final point on this. We're hyper-focused on this one issue. Again, our opponents, including Classy, admitted he don't care if there's a recession. Trump's mean tweets and everything, or a depression, I'm sorry. He said Trump's mean tweets means he would vote for that any day. Our opponents are trying to hyperventilate on these minutia details to get away from the fact that the records of Donald Trump when it comes to the economy, when it comes to immigration, and when it comes to not being on the precipice of World War III were superior. They have no answer to any of this.
Yeah, I'm going to
And I
ask
just
you
want to
again.
say,
For sure. Let's let Josh in.
if Biden had done a superb job over these last almost 4 years, you can rest assured that Kamala Harris would be intertwining herself with him and linking herself to him. But she's not doing that. And that's because Kamala Harris knows that everything's a disaster right now. And that's why she's trying to extricate herself and divorce herself and her brand and her name from Biden. So her doing that is an indictment on how bad the last 4 years have been under Biden. Don't ask me. Don't ask my esteemed colleague. Ask Kamala Harris. And she would tell you, I don't want anything to do with it. That's essentially what she's saying.
Rob Noerr didn't actually answer my question. So even with the revised standards, let me ask you this. Is crime down?
From when? 2021? No. Crime's up.
Yes, it is.
Crime's up from 2020.
It is.
Have I been missing something? I mean, Rob Noerr has been completely answering the question. He brought up the stance. He said, no, look, if you look at these revised FBI statistics, it's actually showing that it went back up. And First Amender, Mr. Don't Show Your Ears Shut, has completely sewn his ears shut. Are those headphones he's wearing or ear muffs? This dude is so lost and so far gone. Like, brainwashing and manipulation is absolutely real, and First Amender is absolutely a victim of this. And Classy too. If Classy actually would have rather voted in, would rather have a depression than mean tweets. I mean, if he really said that, that's wacky as well.
Down.
So you're telling me the FBI...
It's down, yes.
Real quick, I just want to get this clear. You're telling me that the revised FBI statistics, which you have access and you're looking at right now,
yes,
that the 2021 numbers, that 2023 is lower than 2021?
Yes.
You're wrong.
Are they including the crime of crossing our border illegally? Because there's about 10 more million you need to add to that.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and add that.
Oh, you don't care? It's not important
I'm
to you?
telling you it's down. I'm pulling up violent crime. It's down. It's down.
Do those metrics and do those numbers include illegal crossings at our southern border?
I have no idea.
Right,
I have no idea. I'm going to look up the FBI crime statistics. But if you really want, like, honestly, at the end of the day, what I would probably argue in favor for is simple amnesty policies. So that way we actually know who's coming into the country and that we don't take advantage of illegal immigrants basically paying their Social Security taxes with a fake Social Security number and then not being able to collect FICA and all of the, not being able to collect their own Social Security or if they ever get hurt on the job. Right. We're talking about people that genuinely want to work. It's ridiculous, but that's beyond the point.
We got to hand the ball.
I can answer that, but I would real quick like to answer. So I will get the exact specific numbers, but looking at the FBI's graph that they put out, we can see that the crime they listed was actually around 1.19 million in 2021. That number is about 1.21 million in 2023. You have lied. You have directly lied. The numbers show, the actual revised FBI numbers show that crime increased from 2021 to 2022, and it's increased from 2021 to 2023 as well. You have lied. You have misled people. You claim that MAGA is not interested in truth and people like me are not opening our ears and listening, and you are blatantly lying to the audience. I asked you specifically if you were saying that the numbers in 2023 were lower than 2021, and you repeatedly said yes. So one, the FBI statistics have been changed. Second, for the reasons I said, we should not look at that as the preferred metric because it only relies on crimes that police are trying to solve. Third, we can see that the National Crime Victimization Survey actually shows that these things are occurring more, including violent crime like murder. And fourth, you are directly lying to the people. And to answer, if you would like me to answer,
And
If
that's
it,
with the revised statistics.
crime is not
pulled it
down.
up.
Crime is up in
Yeah, it is.
2023 as the. So you're disputing
down.
the graph that I put up from the FBI. You're disputing
It's
it.
literally down. I showed it for everybody to see. It's right
You,
there. Again,
you did
they
not
cut
bring up
their
the source.
ears off.
Bring
They
up the
will not
source.
hear it.
You're saying crime in general is down from
Literally, the
2023 to
CD,
2021. Bring up the source.
CJS.gov. It's the FBI Crime Data Explorer. I literally pulled
Bring
it
up the source. Let
It's
me see
right
it again.
there.
Let me see it again.
All right, here we go.
I just want to be clear. What you're
All right,
saying
I
is
want
that
you to show, right? I want you to tell me with a straight face, crime is up.
let me
Go ahead.
read. Let
Tell
me
me.
read what you
Tell me
have.
how crime
That
is up.
says that crime is down since what? When's
last
that
year.
from? It's down 3% since when?
Last year.
Since last year. Was last year
Yeah.
2021?
No.
So when I asked you from 2021,
You
has
think
crime gone
COVID
up?
might have something to do with
Wait.
2021
Let me
crime
finish. Let me
statistics?
finish my question. As you're trying to gaslight your audience, when
This is
I asked you
ridiculous.
specifically,
It's down.
When
I
I
need
asked
you
you,
to just
please
say
let me
it's
finish.
down.
When I
It's
asked
down.
you,
We know it's
please
down.
let me finish. Notice how he
Stop
filibusters.
cherry-picking data.
Notice the
You need
attempt-
to
notice
say
how
that
he's-
it's down.
Notice
It's
how
down.
he's filibustering.
We know it's
All right,
down.
we're gonna give
What's
Rob.
happening?
We're gonna give Rob 10 seconds just to put a bow
10
on it, and then
seconds.
I'll hand it back.
Bow. Like he's blatantly
Well,
lying.
we
So he
can't.
changed. I said crime's up since
It's
2021.
down.
I'm clearly not
It's
getting my 10
down. I
seconds as he's
showed it.
going back, James, to the filibuster tactering, which I said that
It's
he would
not
do.
filibustering.
So I
I'm
asked
holding your feet to the
specifically, I'll
fire.
just
It's
talk. I
down.
assure you I could talk over you and louder than you, faster than you, more
sure you
intelligently
could.
than you. So
It's
if
down.
the moderator is not going to allow me to talk without you interrupting me, then I'll talk over you. That's no
Well, I can
problem
start.
on my
I can start. Employing those mutes. If,
all I'm
you're having
asking you is to
difficult-
just tell him, let me get my point out. So the point I was making, I asked specifically,
Yeah,
are
put
you
your point
saying
out.
that crime is down from 2021
You're
according to
crazy.
the, he's again talking over me. I asked him specifically if crime was down from 2021 to 2023. He answered in the affirmative. Then he provides statistics that say that crime is down from 2022 to 2023. I
because
gave
you're
the
not
actual
cherry-picking
data that showed
statistics.
that crime is up. My chart, and I've never disputed that from 2022 to 2023 that there was a slight decrease. That is true. What I said was from 2021, the FBI numbers showed that it's
down
up.
even from
He
2021.
lied to his audience. He lied to all of us as the data
just
shows.
down
And then
overall.
when then when it's pointed out, he then says, "Well, do you think COVID had something to do with it?" Because he knows he's
That's
wrong.
correct.
Will you
'Cause
admit?
crime goes up
will
when
you?
people all
I'll
of a
answer
sudden
a
don't
simple
have
yes,
basic
no will suffice.
necessities met.
A simple
Yes.
yes, no will suffice, and you could then expound on it if you
I
want.
just
Will
can't
you
stand
admit?
the lying.
Will you admit that crime is up in 2023 based on these numbers compared
I'm not
to
going to
2021?
abide by your cherry picking statistics.
is-
Crime is
All
down.
right, we've definitely hit a wall there, fellas. There's no point to carry on with this back and forth as far as we've hit at this point. So
So I absolutely loved that. I loved it. Seeing First Amender sit there and cry like a little girl. Crime is down. Crime is down. Stop it. Stop it with your facts. This isn't a sign of a confident young man who's confident in what he's saying. It's a sign of a brainwashed liberal whose worldview is getting challenged. That's the thing with a lot of these lefties. They're not. See, listen, they say that MAGA is a cult, right? Like we're cults. They're actually a cult. And no, not just the cult of Democrats, it's the cult of anti-Trumpism. There are people that are, it's pretty much a collection of people that are so Trump deranged. All they care about is just being anti-Trump. If Trump is for something, then they're against it. If Trump is against something, then they're for it. And even if they know that the economy was bad under Biden, that crime was overall up under Biden, because listen, here's the thing. Even if crime did lower under Biden, do you think it was honestly due to any of Biden's policies? Can you actually point to a specific policy that led to crime going down under Biden? Also, isn't crime still overall up? Like crime from that time period that they listed where it went down, isn't that still up from like 15 years ago? Like, isn't it still up overall? It's like when they said, oh, inflation went down, inflation cooled. It's like, yeah, I mean, inflation cooled, but it's still up overall. But the thing is, they feel that Donald Trump is such a danger and such a threat that they're willing to lie and gaslight and manipulate just so they could try to convince people that no, actually, Orange Man is bad. But this was absolutely beautiful to see. What did you guys think? How did you guys think Rob Noerr did squaring off against 1stamender, 1stamender? Sound off in the comment section below. Give this video a like if you liked it. If you really liked it, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would really appreciate that. If you want to see more of Rob Noerr, I have a playlist up on the screen that you can binge. I also have a First Amender playlist if you love seeing First Amender get wrecked.